Hello and welcome to a slightly different episode of Never a Truer Word, where we look at the words that people choose to use to see if they're telling the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, using my statement investigation process, which anyone can learn, which helps us dig into the words that someone says or someone writes to understand what's really going on. This is slightly different because we're looking at reality TV here, normally looking at crime, people in the news, people in court, politicians, but today it's Love is Blind and the controversy involving Daniel and Taylor. If you don't know anything about it, don't worry, because we'll fill you in as we go. And this came to me from one of the viewers who said the first 10 minutes of Love is Blind, Season 8, Episode 7, would be a fascinating analysis. One fiancé lies to his fiancée about having scouted her on Instagram already before the show, and there are so many indicators of deception to me. So let's dig in to what Daniel said, and let's see if indeed there are a lot of indicators of deception in Daniel. If you're new here, and I'm guessing you might be because this isn't the normal thing, we work on the premise that the words that we use reveal more than we intend them to. We just can't help it. Lying is very difficult, and the truth will often leak out in our words. So if we're ready for that, let's set up the story and let's see what we can see from the words that Daniel uses to Taylor. Now, first of all, here's Taylor setting up the story. Taylor says, I have like this overwhelming feeling that when the doors opened last night, that was not the first time that he saw me. I believe he knew exactly what I looked like the entire time we were talking through the wall. So a confrontation is set up, and this is how it goes, with the caveat that this is reality TV, so there are a lot of edits here. So this might not be quite how the conversation flowed, although it does seem pretty good to me for reality TV. So Taylor sits down with Daniel and says, I'm pretty confident that you had followed me on Instagram not long before coming here. All of the things that we talked about are all on my Instagram as well. Taco Bell, registered nurse, family faith. We also had mutual people, if I remember right, when I looked at your profile. It just really scares me. And here's Daniel's response. And Daniel says, seeing the doors open is the first time that I saw what you looked like. I had no idea. So that's his first answer. And I've got some things in there already that make me question him. So this doesn't flow. This is not quite the expected answer. The expected answer would be something like, the first time I saw you was when the doors opened. And yet he's focused not on seeing her, first of all, but on seeing the doors open. Seeing the doors open is the first time that... And then there's a bit of a pause. Does he find this hard to say? Pauses can be really instructive, because while we're pausing, we're thinking of the right words to use very often. Seeing the doors open is the first time that I saw what you looked like. I had no idea. So this is the first time. It's very carefully qualified here. It's not the first time I saw you. It's I saw what you looked like. And we all know there's a possibility that what someone looks like on Instagram and what someone looks like in real life are two different things. And that's possibly what's going on here. He doesn't say, when the doors opened, it was the first time I saw you. That would be simple and straightforward. This is way more complex than that. Seeing the doors open is the first time that I saw what you looked like. So it's very qualified. And then he says, I had no idea. Now that is a red flag phrase for deception happening, or potential deception happening, I should say. I had no idea. We often have an idea. Now just think, if you're sitting talking to someone and you've never seen them, you may well build up a picture in your head of what you think they look like. So you may well have had some ideas of what they look like. You can guess from someone's voice lots of things about them. You can maybe be wrong, but you might think about height, or you might think about weight and things like that. You might think about hair color, facial shape, all that stuff. But he says, I had no idea. Now, we very often have an idea. So when someone says, I have no idea, rather than I don't know, when they say, I had no idea, red flag for deception. It doesn't prove deception's happening, but it's an indication that something might be going on. Taylor says to him, you don't remember following me on Instagram? Question. And Daniel says, 100% I do not. I promise you. I would tell you. Actually, I would have told production halfway through if I recognised anything. Once more, Daniel's answer has got me asking so many questions. You don't remember following me on Instagram? That's a yes and no question. No, I don't remember following you on Instagram, or yes, I do remember following you on Instagram, but he just doesn't say yes or no. Again, this is another red flag for deception. When someone is asked a question that can be answered with yes, no, or I don't know, and they don't say those words very quickly at the start of the answer, then an indication, again, dissection could be happening, and actually some more storytelling is happening rather than answering the question directly. So instead of saying yes or no, he says 100%, I do not. He doesn't say what he doesn't, again. So 100% I do not remember following you on Instagram would be a full, frank answer. But he just says 100% I do not. Interesting answer. And then he says, I promise you. Now, very often, if you watch more of my episodes, then you will see me say, I promise you, and someone saying, oh, to be honest with you, or to be truthful with you, or honestly. Those words can be flags of deception. Why? Because why does someone feel the need to tell us they're being honest? Why does someone feel the need to prove they are being honest? When they're just talking, truthful people don't feel the need to go, hey, I'm being honest. Truthful people, they just do the honest thing and say what is truthful. So when someone feels this need to persuade us that they are being honest, very often it's a red flag for deception. In this case, it's kind of a red flag for me, but it's not a massive red flag because Daniel's honesty is being called into question in this conversation. Is he being honest or is he not being honest? And so here, I don't think it's a complete big red flag. I could understand why when your honesty is being called into question, I can understand why he is telling us about his honesty. So he says, I promise you, I would tell you. Actually, I would have told production halfway through if I recognized anything. Once again, Daniel's giving us these qualified words. I would have told production halfway through if I recognized anything. Why does this halfway through come in? Why was it not just, I would have told production if I'd recognized anything? Halfway through seems a strange qualification to bring into it. And also, if I recognized anything, not if I recognized you. I would have told production if I'd recognized you would be straightforward. It'd be a direct line to what it is that he's trying to say, the impression that he wants to give. However, instead of that, what we get is, I would have told production halfway through if I recognized anything. So already I'm getting some strange word choices from Daniel. Taylor says to him, I'm hearing you, and I know what you're saying. I hear the words, but I'm still struggling to feel good about it. Daniel says, I promise you that I don't remember any, and he gets cut off. So once more, we have this, I promise you. With Daniel, he does it a lot. So I'm going to say, why has he got such a need to persuade us that he's being truthful? However, it could be because he really wants to persuade us he's being truthful in this case. And then I promise you that I don't remember it. Now, he very much goes on the concept not of whether he has followed her on Instagram, whether he has looked at her Instagram profile, it's whether he remembers doing it. Now, that is an interesting concept because it's very hard to prove what someone remembers or doesn't remember. We can prove by looking at data, I guess, that he has followed her on Instagram or that he hasn't followed her on Instagram, but it's harder for us to prove whether he remembers doing it or not. So is he building up a defense here if he gets caught that he has followed her on Instagram? Oh, okay, I did do that. I just don't remember doing that is potentially what he is saying here. Taylor says, because I do have a followers app so I can see who followed me. And he says, yeah, and unfollowed me. And Daniel says, I understand, like, if that's the case, why you would be, like, shaken up a little bit. I'm shaking up right now thinking that that might be the case. Once again, what he says is very curious to me. Number one, he says, I understand if that's the case. So he's not discounting the possibility that he could have followed her because he's got this if there. If that's the case, so that is in the present tense. He doesn't say, I understand if that happened, you would be shaken up, but it didn't happen. It's just if that's the case. So it's in his head that it's very possible that he has followed her. Is that accidental? Is that he doesn't remember? Or is it deliberate and he is holding himself back from all of this? I understand why you would be like shaken up a little bit. So he's trying to minimize now. He's trying to say, yeah, I understand why you'd be shaken up, but he's trying to minimize it and say, it's no big deal. You'd only be shaken up a little bit. So he's turning down the severity for us. And then he says, I'm shaking up now thinking that might be the case. Now, this is classic here. He's starting to turn himself into the victim. He's starting to turn himself into the person that is suffering here. It's not Taylor who may have been deceived and is worried that she has been deceived. What we've got here is we've got Daniel going, hey, I'm a victim here too. I'm shaken up right now thinking that might be the case. And again, it's possible in his head, he's not discounting the fact that he could have followed her on Instagram. And you'll notice that is in his head all the time, because that might be the case. And then from someone who says, I don't remember following you, and if I recognized you, then I would have said, halfway through, he then starts saying, it's very possible that at one point I followed you and unfollowed you. It's possible. So he's now saying out loud, this is very possible, by the way. It's not just kind of possible, or I guess it's possible. I guess it could have happened in a sort of trivial way. He's now saying it's very possible. Is he laying the groundwork here for if he does get caught having been on Instagram and looked at Taylor's profile, that he said, yeah, I said it was very possible, that I follow lots of people on Instagram, or I check out lots of people on Instagram, so it's very possible Taylor is one of them. Is that what is going on here? Certainly he's laying the groundwork for the fact that he could well have followed Taylor on Instagram. It's very possible that at one point I followed you and unfollowed you. It's possible. So we've got possible again. Now, there may be some edits going on here, but as I understand it, what Taylor is saying is, you followed me on Instagram, because she said, I do remember someone following me on Instagram, and also has looked at her profile. Now, you can look at someone's profile on Instagram in many cases, even if you don't follow them, you just click on and look at the profile. But however, he's saying, I followed you, and he's introduced unfollowed you as well. So is there some leakage as to what actually happened? Has he looked at her profile? Has he followed her to see what's going on? And then, as it's got closer to the time, has he unfollowed her? So the evidence kind of goes. It gets very stuttery. He says, I don't know why I would have. I don't remember it. I just don't. I don't remember it. Now, he's doing a lot of stutters around the word I there. I is a very personal word to us. There is no more personal word you can get. And for us to join I to something that is deceptive causes us psychological anxiety. And we might think, is this the right thing to do in our heads? And while we're thinking that, we need to make some words come out so that we sound fluent. So is he saying I, and is he thinking, do I want to join myself to this? I don't know why I would have. I don't remember it. I just don't remember it. Now, it is a definite concept. He's not saying, I don't remember doing that, which is a bit more distant and far away. He's saying, I don't remember it. So in my mind now, I am getting a sense in his words that he did follow Instagram. He knows her on Instagram. He knows the incident itself, and he's calling it rather than some more distant concept that could have happened, which he would be more likely to refer to as that. I don't know why. I don't remember it. I don't remember it. And we've also got just there, we've got the word just, which is again an indicator that deception could be happening. It doesn't always mean that deception is happening, but when someone says just, they're attempting to sort of narrow or focus down on things and say, this is the only thing that's happening. I just don't remember it. Here, I think it's a bit of a persuasive just. He then goes off-piste. I remember faces. I would remember if I saw you. I would remember. I would. Cheating the system. I just, and we've got that word just again, wouldn't have done it. Like, I'd be the shittiest of people if I went through that whole thing knowing what you looked like and not telling anybody. So this is a bit of a diversion away, but there's also another classic deception tactic possibly happening here with Daniel, which is saying how bad this would be. Look how honest I'm being, because I'm telling you guys that, look, I'd be the shittiest of people if I went through that whole thing, doing all that, knowing what you look like and not telling anybody. He doesn't say I'm not the shittiest of people. He just says I'd be the shittiest of people. And is this him attempting to look honest and saying, I know the consequences of all of this, and if I know the consequences, then I couldn't possibly have done it. But he doesn't say that in full. He just says, I acknowledge I'd be the shittiest of people if I went through the whole thing, knowing what you looked like and not telling anybody. And then he says, and I hope you know I'm not that person. He doesn't say, I'm not that person. He does not say that at all. So he does not say, I'm not the person that would do that. He doesn't say it very straight and direct. Again, there's more words around it which qualify what he's saying. It's, I hope you'd know I'm not that person. I hope you'd know. So it's not, I'm not that person. It's, I hope you don't think I'm that person in your head. Two very different things. And you can see here where the words reveal a lot more about what someone is thinking if you take time to step back, analyze, and look at the ones that he's using. So he's not saying I'm not that person. It's only he hopes you know I'm not that person. Taylor says, well, that's why I'm here. And then Daniel just uses two of the classic lines that we've drawn out. He says, I had no idea. Potentially he did, we all do, and I promise you, one of the two red flag phrases together there. Taylor says, if I look at that and I do see your name there, and he says, if you look at the followers thing and see my name, like that's gonna suck. So again, he has said, if you look at the followers thing and see my name. Now, name has been introduced by Taylor. She says, if I look at that and do see your name there, we all know Instagram accounts, you can call them anything you want. And he's focused just on seeing the name there. So it's not seeing me there, not seeing that I've done it. He says, that's gonna suck. Not that would be a huge surprise to me. Not, wow, don't like that. Just, if you do it, that's gonna suck. Now, that could be what he says, but just think of the words he would use if he was going to get rumbled, if he was going to get caught for having broken the rules and not played fairly here. It'd be the exact same words. If you look at that and see my name, it's going to suck. Taylor says, or Taylor's offered by production, if you'd like the answers you need, we're willing to give you your phone. So she gets her phone. Now Daniel goes, yeah, I mean, it's up to you. It's like, it's very possible. Couple of things going on here. Let's deal with the very possible. First of all, that's again, he's telling us out loud in his words, it's very possible that his name is going to be on that list. It's very possible. He's not trying to say I'd be shocked or would be like news to me. He's saying it's very possible. So the concept is in his head and comes out time and time and time again in his words that he may show up as having been a follower of her on Instagram. And she has been offered her phone, and he says, it's up to you. Now, this is where I would warn Taylor to be very wary of Daniel. He is giving her permission to do things here. Or is he saying this is all on you? Almost like if you find out this has happened, it's your fault because you're the one that took the decision to look into it. It's up to you. It's controlling language. It's giving her permission when he has no permission and no grounds to give her permission to do something. This is entirely her own decision, but he's okaying that. So it's entirely up to you, but I'm okay with that. In other words, kind of up to him. And he says, Taylor says, I'm going to look, and he says, okay. And then Daniel says, I wish I could say for 100% certainty that I didn't follow you or I follow you, but I just don't know. Now look at the tenses here. I wish I could say for 100% certainty that I didn't follow you. So that is something that happens in the past. It did not follow you. So that is at some point followed in the past. And then he says, or I follow you, which is in the present. So why is he not able to say for 100% certainty why he didn't or why he does follow her? It's very interesting. Again, his words are just not plain, direct, simple and straightforward. And he says it out loud, the words, I follow you. To me, he is now leaking that he thinks it's entirely possible that he is going to be found out here for having looked at her on Instagram. He says, if I'm there, I just hope you know that I truly have came in with nothing. So again, if I'm there, it's not I came in with nothing, or I came in with nothing. If I'm there, I don't remember it, nothing of it registered with me. It would be a shock to me as well. Again, he's focused on what she knows. And I think to me that is, am I being persuasive enough? Have I persuaded her enough that, I have nothing to do with this so that she knows I truly came in with nothing? Not that I did come in with nothing. Again, that's not what he's saying. He's just hoping she knows that he came in with nothing. And he uses the word truly there. I truly came in with nothing. Again, that's like, promise you. It's a bit of a red flag to say, look how honest I am being here. I truly came in with nothing. Now she looks through this app and she can't find him. And she says, I'm sorry. And he says, don't apologize. I need to know too, So, hey ho, this is not just about her and settling her mind. This again is about him being the victim. And of course, he does need to know because his entire future in this program depends on it. Taylor says, now I feel crazy. And Daniel says, no, please don't feel crazy. And then he says, my feelings for you haven't changed. And I hope, do you believe me? two big things there. Again, every time this guy Daniel opens his mouth, I'm catching red flags. My feelings for you haven't changed. Big wow. Well done, mate. Like all Taylor has done is raise some legitimate concerns. Why would it enter your mind that your feelings for her should change? Because she's onto you potentially, and therefore that would make your feelings for her change. You hoped she was a bit naive, a bit dumb, would never really know what had happened, and that you could just pull the wool over her eyes. That's why your feelings would change if she wasn't that person. But your feelings for her should not change if she wants some peace of mind over something at all. Your feelings should not change about that person at all. Another red flag for his personality type. And then he says, and like, I hope, do you believe me? He's showing what's really important here, which is not what the truth is, not what has happened, but it's whether people believe his version of events. And Taylor says, I do, but you didn't know, maybe you did follow me at some point. And Daniel says, yeah. So maybe you did follow me at some point, and he says, yeah, which is very near a confession that he did follow her at some point. So that's the scene that I was asked to analyze, and I think, wow, Daniel has lots to answer to, lots in his head that he did follow her on Instagram, and what's important to him is not conveying the truth, but is whether he is believed or not. There's also some red flags for controlling language in there. Taylor, if you ever see this, I would personally run a mile. That's my advice. I don't think Daniel is a great person to be hanging with. What do you think? Do let me know in the comments if you can, or you can subscribe to get more like this. I'll get this out to more people who enjoy reality TV by pressing the like button. That helps us get out to many more people, or you could share it with people who are into reality TV as well. Listen, Never a Truer Word is my website, neveratruerword.com. There you will find a whole lot more videos breaking down the words that people use so you can see deception or the truth in action. Lots of podcasts as well, and you can sign up for the monthly newsletter where we deal with more stories like this. Neveratruerword.com, and we'll see you soon for something new from Never a Truer Word.